What happens when one of the world's most powerful CEOs swaps his suit for a factory uniform? Elon Musk's undercover mission at Tesla uncovered shocking truths about his own company, and what he discovered could change everything. It was a decision no one saw coming, not his executives, not the employees on the production floor, and certainly not the outside world. One morning, Elon Musk, the mysterious leader behind Tesla, stood in front of a mirror, staring at his reflection. His usual casual look, with a hoodie, was replaced by something much more ordinary: the uniform of Tesla assembly worker. With safety goggles awkwardly perched on his nose and a lunchbox in hand, he practiced the one thing he needed to do. He rarely needed to blend in. But the idea came to him during a late-night brainstorming session. Reports from the factory floor had been coming in, filled with complaints about long hours, unexplained delays, and hidden frustrations. For a man who was obsessed with precision and progress, these inefficiencies bothered him. Elon's usual solution, a series of meetings and commands from the top, didn't feel enough. If he wanted the truth, he knew he had to experience it firsthand. "I need to know what they see, what they feel," he muttered to himself as he put on his steel-tube boots. He could hear his assistants discussing the logistics in the other room, the security risks, the press exposure. But none of it mattered. This wasn't about image or publicity. Stoami did not take risks like that, especially not for his success. He took his time, searching for the unused baskets between the window cartage and offering them to some of his people. The work, it was about understanding. Slipping into the crowd that morning was easier than Elon expected. The Tesla Gigafactory in Sparks, Nevada, buzzed with activity as hundreds of workers filed in. Elon felt a pang of guilt as he watched the routine unfold. The exhaustion on some faces, the easy camaraderie on others. No one gave him a second glance as he joined a line heading toward the main floor. Inside, the energy was undeniable, a mix of machinery and human effort. Conveyor belts hummed, robotic arms moved with precision, and workers darted between stations. Their movements were practiced, yet relentless. Elon took it all in, wondering how many stories, struggles, and triumphs were hidden within these walls. His cover story was simple: Dan, a mid-career technician transferring from a smaller plant. With a little coaching and a lot of caution, he managed to keep his real identity hidden. As he moved toward his assigned station, his heart raced, not from fear, but from excitement. For the first time in years, Elon Musk was just another cog in the machine. "All right, Dan," barked his supervisor, a wiry man with a sharp gaze named Todd. "We don't have time for slow starts. Get over here and shadow me." "Eric will show you the ropes," said Todd. Eric, a wiry and energetic man in his 30s, gave Elon a quick nod. "New guy, huh? Hope you're ready. This isn't exactly a cakewalk." His tone wasn't harsh, but it wasn't welcoming either. It was the tone of someone who'd seen too many new hires come and go. Elon smiled. "I'll do my best." As the hours passed, Elon found himself fully immersed in a world he had only seen from the boardroom. The tasks were physically demanding, requiring both focus and speed. Sweat trickled down his brow as he adjusted bolts and tightened screws, each movement being closely watched by Eric, who had little patience for mistakes. By the time the shift ended, Elon's hands were sore and his legs felt like jelly. But more than the physical strain, it was the stories he overheard that stayed with him. A single mother working overtime to cover her rent. A young man saving up to return to school. A veteran quietly coping with old injuries. This was Tesla's heart, the people who brought his visions to life. And they were far more than just numbers on a quarterly report. But Elon wasn't there just to observe. He was there to learn. As the second day began, the cracks in Tesla's seamless facade started to show. The morning air was heavy with anticipation as Elon stepped onto the factory floor for his second day. The excitement of his undercover mission had faded, replaced by the harsh reality of the work. It was grueling, and the pace was relentless. But this was exactly what he'd come for, to experience what his employees faced every day. Eric wasted no time putting him to work. "You're on the assembly line today," he said, handing Elon a pair of gloves. "It's simple. Bolts on the chassis, one every 3 seconds. No time for hesitation." The line moved faster than Elon had expected, a blur of metal and motion. At first, he fumbled the bolts, slipping through his fingers as the conveyor belt dragged the chassis out of reach. His mistakes didn't go unnoticed. "Pick it up, Dan," Eric shouted from across the line. "You're holding us all back." It wasn't just the physical demands that surprised him. It was the culture. Conversations buzzed around him, mixing frustration with humor. "Did you hear about the new software update? It's messing with the robots again," a worker muttered nearby. "Yeah, and guess who's staying late to fix it?" another replied with a dry laugh. By lunchtime, Elon's muscles ached, but his ears had caught more than he expected. Workers shared stories of inconsistent scheduling, faulty equipment slowing production, and the constant pressure to hit quotas, no matter the cost. Beneath the camaraderie lay a quiet frustration, one that no glossy corporate report could capture. Elon sat alone in the break room, watching the conversations around him. A group of workers huddled by the vending machines, talking about a recent accident on the floor. "Third one this month," one of them said grimly. "If they don't fix that lift soon, someone's going to get seriously hurt." The words hit Elon hard. As he sipped his coffee, he realized that the factory's problems weren't just about productivity. They were about people. The stakes were much higher than he'd imagined. Later that day, Elon witnessed his first major malfunction. One of the robotic arms on the line sputtered and froze, bringing production to a sudden halt. Alarms blared, as supervisors rushed to contain the chaos. Eric cursed under his breath as he grabbed a toolkit. "This thing's been acting up for weeks," he grumbled. "But fixing it properly takes time and we don't have it." Elon offered to help. His years of engineering experience were finally put to use. Together, they managed to get the arm back online, but not before losing nearly an hour of production. The delay rippled through the line, earning glares from workers further down the chain as the day came to an end. Elon couldn't shake the feeling of tension that hung over the factory. For all the innovation Tesla represented, it was clear that the people on the ground felt overlooked. Their voices were drowned out by the relentless push for progress. The cracks in the system were becoming impossible to ignore. But as Elon spent more time on the factory floor, he stumbled upon something unexpected. Moments of brilliance that could change everything. By his third day on the job, Elon had started to adapt to the rhythm of the factory. The task no longer felt unfamiliar, though the physical strain was always there. His fingers were sore from repetition, and his back ached in ways he hadn't felt in years. Yet it wasn't the physical toll that weighed on him the most. It was the human toll. The cracks in Tesla's seemingly efficient system were widening before his eyes. Conversations that once seemed unimportant now carried more weight. The faulty robotic arm wasn't an isolated problem. Other machines had issues too, minor glitches that went unaddressed in the rush to keep the line moving. Workers had to make up for these errors by speeding up or improvising, often at the cost of safety. "Dan, heads up," a voice shouted as a panel slipped from its mount. Elon instinctively lunged, catching the heavy sheet of aluminum before it hit the floor. His heart raced as he carefully set it back in place. A nearby worker, a young man named Luis, gave him a tired smile. "You're quick," he said. "We could use more hands like that." But Elon knew that the moment wasn't just about a quick save. It was another sign of a deeper problem. An overburdened workforce stretched too thin. The break room that afternoon was quieter than usual. A heated argument had broken out earlier over shifts being reassigned without notice. Elon sat with Louise and a few others, listening as they vented their frustrations. "They keep saying we're part of this big mission," Louise said, waving vaguely toward the Tesla logo on the wall. "But it doesn't feel like it. It feels like we're just parts of something." Another worker added, "The worst part is, they don't even listen. We've been telling them about that faulty lift for weeks. Do you think anyone upstairs cares?" Elon felt a sharp pang of guilt. These weren't just employees. They were the backbone of Tesla, the ones who made dreams come true. And yet, they were being pushed to their limits. Later that evening, another incident made the situation painfully clear. A worker named Tasha was injured when a piece of equipment jammed, sending a small metal shard slicing across her forearm. Supervisors rushed to help, but the look on her face wasn't just one of pain. It was frustration. "I told him this thing was acting up," she muttered, her voice sharp with anger. She said through gritted teeth as her arm was bandaged, "No one listens until it's too late." Elon's mind raced as he walked back to his station. He had designed Tesla to be the pinnacle of innovation, but here on the factory floor, it felt like the heart of the company was missing. Workers weren't just battling machines. They were fighting against a system that seemed to overlook their value. As the shift ended, Elon stayed behind, ostensibly to help clean up, but really to think. The issues were clear, but what could be done to fix them without disrupting the delicate balance of production? He had come here for answers, but now he was drowning in questions. Just when the problem seemed too big to solve, Elon began to notice something remarkable: a spark of ingenuity among the workers themselves. By the end of the week, he had earned their trust. He was no longer just the new guy fumbling with bolts. He was Dan, someone who worked hard, listened, and lent a hand when needed. This camaraderie gave him a chance to witness something extraordinary: the creativity of the people who kept Tesla running, often in spite of the system. One evening, as the last shift was getting ready to clock out, Elon noticed a small group gathered around a malfunctioning station. The robotic welder had been acting up for weeks, its precision degraded to the point where it was nearly useless. Instead of waiting for a repair team, the workers had taken matters into their own hands. Louise, the young man Elon had saved earlier, was leading the effort. With a mix of spare parts scavenged from other machines and a healthy dose of creativity, they managed to bypass the welder's faulty circuit board. The machine sputtered back to life, welding seams as neatly as it had on day one. "Not bad for a bunch of amateurs, huh?" Louise said, grinning, as he wiped grease from his hands. Elon couldn't hide his amazement. "How'd you figure that out?" Louise shrugged. "You spend enough time around these machines, you start to see patterns. Management doesn't have time for this stuff, so we figure it out ourselves." The ingenuity didn't stop there. Over the next few days, Elon saw similar moments of brilliance. Workers redesigning tools to make their jobs easier, streamlining assembly sequences to save precious seconds, and even reprogramming a robot's workflow to avoid downtime. These weren't just complaints or gripes, they were solutions born out of necessity. But the disconnect was clear. These innovations rarely reached the ears of management. Supervisors were too focused on meeting quotas, and the workers didn't feel empowered to share their ideas beyond their immediate teams. The turning point came during an informal gathering in the break room. A group of employees had gathered to brainstorm solutions to recurring issues on the line. The conversation was animated, filled with laughter and heated debates, but beneath it all was a clear sense of purpose. "We could probably shave 5 minutes off each shift if we adjusted the conveyor timing," one worker suggested. "Yeah, but who's going to listen?" "Been through this before," another countered. Elon cleared his throat, speaking up for the first time. "What if someone did listen? What if you had a direct line to the top?" The room fell silent, and the workers exchanged skeptical glances. "That's a nice thought, Dan," Louise said, "but that's not how it works here." Elon didn't argue, but the wheels in his mind were already turning. He had seen enough. The workers weren't the problem, they were the solution. All they needed was a voice and a platform. It was time to reveal who he really was. The question wasn't whether they would believe him, it was how they would react to the truth and what would happen next. The factory's morning meeting was routine. Rows of workers standing shoulder to shoulder, supervisors delivering updates and instructions over the hum of machinery. It was the perfect stage for what Elon had planned. He stood at the back of the room, still in his worker's uniform, his safety goggles perched on his head. Louise nudged him. "You good, Dan? You look nervous." Elon gave a tight smile. "Yeah, just thinking about something big." When the supervisors finished, he stepped forward, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. For all the board meetings and product launches he'd led, this moment felt different, raw, unfiltered, and personal. He cleared his throat. "Before we get to work, I need to say something." His voice cut through the murmurs of the crowd, turning heads. "My name isn't Dan." A ripple of confusion spread through the room. Luis furrowed his brow. "What are you talking about?" Elon took a deep breath. "My name is Elon Musk. I've been working alongside you for the past week to see what life is really like on this floor, what you go through, what you face every day." For a moment the room fell silent. Then came the reactions, gasps, whispers, and disbelieving laughter. "No way," someone muttered. "Is this a joke?" But Elon wasn't joking. He removed his safety goggles, straightened his posture, and continued. "I came here because I needed to understand what's really happening in this factory, not from reports or meetings, but from you. Because you're the ones who make Tesla what it is." Louis stared at him, his expression a mix of shock and realization. "Wait, you're serious? You're actually him?" The pile of bones began to move, until Josh could see Adler's face. Elon nodded. "Yes, and I've learned more in the past week than I have in years. I've seen the challenges you face, broken equipment, unrealistic expectations, and a system that doesn't always value your input. But I've also seen your ingenuity, your resilience, and your ability to solve problems in ways no one else could." The room was still. Workers exchanged glances, their skepticism slowly giving way to curiosity, and, for some, hope. Elon's voice grew steadier. "What I saw this week is something I can't ignore. You're not just employees. You're innovators, problem solvers, and the heart of this company. And starting today, things are going to change." A hand shot up from the back of the room. "Like what?" a woman called out. "For starters," Elon said, "we're going to create a direct line of communication between the factory floor and the leadership team. Your ideas, your concerns, they need to be heard. And we'll fix the equipment issues you've been dealing with. No more shortcuts." The workers began to murmur again, but this time with a note of cautious optimism. Luis stepped forward, still looking incredulous, but now smiling. "You really mean it?" "I do," Elon said. "But I can't do it alone. I need your help to make this place as innovative and efficient as we all know it can be." The room erupted into applause, not the polite kind reserved for speeches, but genuine, unfiltered appreciation. For the first time, many of them felt seen. The reveal was just the beginning. Now came the hard part. Turning promises into action and proving that leadership wasn't about being at the top, but standing alongside those who built the foundation. The days following Elon's reveal were nothing short of transformative. True to his word, he didn't just make promises and walk away. He stayed, listening to workers, addressing their concerns, and setting change in motion. The first priority was tackling safety issues. The malfunctioning lift that had injured Tasha was immediately repaired, and a safety audit team was deployed across the factory to identify other problem areas. Workers who had once resigned themselves to hazardous conditions now felt empowered to speak up. Elon also introduced a simple but revolutionary system, an open innovation forum. Workers could now submit ideas directly to management. No red tape, no middlemen. Within days, the submissions flooded in. Luis's suggestion to adjust the conveyor belt timing was implemented, shaving precious minutes off the assembly process. Tasha proposed a redesign for a cumbersome tool, reducing workers' strain and boosting efficiency. Ideas that once died in the break room now had a direct path to the top. Morale on the factory floor began to shift. Employees who had once seen themselves as replaceable cogs in a massive machine now felt like vital contributors to Tesla's mission. The changes weren't just felt in the factory, they resonated throughout the company. For Elon, the experience left a profound mark. When he returned to his executive role, he carried with him the lessons learned from those who built the foundation of Tesla, knowing that leadership was about more than just decisions from the top. It was about listening, empowering, and standing alongside those who made it all possible. He carried the lessons of the factory with him. During a company-wide meeting, he spoke openly about his time undercover, emphasizing the importance of humility and connection. Many of the leaders I have interacted with, especially my colleagues, when I was closest to the work, it's clear we don't want just anyone. We have to take into account more than just the boardroom, he said. Innovation doesn't just come from the top, it comes from every level, especially from those closest to the work. As leaders, our job isn't just to guide, it's to listen, to empower, and to adapt. The moral lesson wasn't lost on anyone. Leadership wasn't about commanding from above. It was about understanding the people who made progress possible. Elon's undercover mission became a defining moment in Tesla's journey, a story that employees shared with pride and that inspired other companies to rethink their approach to leadership. As for the workers, they didn't forget the week when Dan joined their ranks. For many, it was a reminder that their voices mattered and that change was possible, even in a place as massive and complex as Tesla. This story isn't just about one man or one company. It's about the power of listening, the importance of recognizing the value in every individual, and the strength that comes from working together.